Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans. You know what time it is. It's time for the weekend rotation. We join you every Saturday morning. As you see, I got Jake McKeever joining me today. Jake, how we doing, man?
It was an exciting day. 15 of the 16 SEC teams won. We had some pitcher hits. We had some balk-offs. It was just an unreal night on PSAT week in the SEC.
Mizzou is officially the only team under 500 in all of the SEC, and they were the team that did not win last night. So, Mizzou baseball, as much as we love you, I think Carrick Jackson's going to be great there. This is not the team this year, unfortunately. But let's dive into some really good ones across the country. And some teams did start conference week. Let's start with Stanford and North Carolina. Stanford 13, North Carolina 9. Not a lot of folks gave Stanford a chance going in there on Friday night. North Carolina didn't lose a game last year. I had them winning this series, and people thought I might have been a crazy person, but I've seen them live. I've seen how they play. And North Carolina is a very good ball club. I have both these teams Omaha bound, but Brandon Larson hits that grand slam and then a home run there from Jimmy Natai in the fifth inning, and that blew it open for them with that 6-run lead, and they just never looked back.
Yeah, and I'll say this. The thing that really impressed me about the Stanford team is they took that early punch. Jason DeCaro, when they struck out Sasaki, the crowd really got into it.
Yeah.
I think it was Kane Kepley that kind of got him going in that top of the first. They took that first punch and immediately rebounded, immediately bounced back. They forced North Carolina into some difficult spots, some unearned runs, and then when they gave them just a sliver of an opening, they blew it up with that grand slam. It was a really impressive win for Stanford. And again, this is kind of everybody's first introduction to Stanford in the AAC, and they absolutely shined in their first introduction.
And we looked at this game, we go, oh, DeCaro versus Matt Scott. You're talking about a marquee matchup of Friday night aces. And neither one of them were really terrific, and they really didn't look the part last night. UNC's
DeCaro was
ERA is like
good until he
3.18.
wasn't.
He was good in the
I
first,
will say
but then
DeCaro
he
was
gave up
good.
runs,
Yeah,
and
he
then it
was
was
good
just
until he wasn't.
yeah. And Matt Scott wasn't bad, but that North Carolina team can hit, and he just battled, but really good out of the bullpen from Ty Uber and Trevor Moore there in relief for Stanford. Just good to see them go out there and just hold that game after they got the lead, because it's really hard to win there at that ballpark in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult place to go in, especially when the fans want to be there, and the fans did want to be there.
Yeah.
That's an environment for as good as Stanford is. They really haven't had environments like that in the ACC. That was kind of the one thing that I was really worried about. But they were the third team to win their first game opening night, four
Yeah.
if you include Oregon. But
Yeah,
every
Oregon and USC, one of them was going to win, right? So one of them was going to get their first Big Ten win, which we'll go into next. Oregon wins 7-2. Grayson Grinsill goes 5 innings. Jason Wrights goes the other 4 innings there. He was terrific in that relief. He gave up no runs, just a few hits there. And Mason Neville starts the game off with a home run, as usual for the Ducks, it feels like. His 2 RBIs were just enough there. This Oregon Duck team does it in different ways, it feels like, every single week. And this is a good USC team that's been hot, Jake.
Yeah, it's been a much improved USC team. I should say that Grayson Grinsill, you're going to look at that box score and see those 2 runs that he gave up. They were both kind of misplays that didn't touch
Should have been
gloves.
unearned, but they gave them
Should
his
have
hits
been,
because
but
they
they
were
didn't touch
missed fly
gloves.
balls.
But I mean, I always come away super, super impressed with Mason Neville. He's one of the best players no one talks about.
Yeah.
He's a power hitting center fielder that bats lead off. I think there's very few teams in the country. And again, I actually have got to see USC in person. They are a much improved team. They're a big fundamentals team. So it's really kind of weird to see them play in a game like this, because you almost kind of blinked and looked up and it was 7-0 in the fifth. They did kind of chip away there a little bit, but it was just an Oregon onslaught from the start, and they never really let them back in with that bullpen that was in the back end. I mean, when you only throw 2 guys, you're going to win a ton of games. And again, USC is the only new member of a conference to lose
to not win on their opening
to not
day.
win on opening night. Yeah.
Here's the thing. This philosophy now, Jake, we've seen it more and more from these teams. They go out there, they go, we're going to throw maybe our 2 best guys on Friday. We're going to throw them back to back now. We're going to throw them and say, we're going to go out there and just throw 2 guys and try to get the wins on Friday. A lot of teams are trying this approach if they feel like they have a good bullpen guy and they have a starting ace. And that's what Oregon did. And they went out there and took care of business and really did well on the pitching side. They've been doing a lot on the offensive side, but this was good to see them go out and get a win on the road and get that good pitching style. Troy 11, USC Upstate 9. Blake Cavell 3 for 3, pair of home runs. Troy bashed 5 solo home runs, Jake, in this game.
Yeah, it was just an incredible outing. I know when you hear Troy baseball, you immediately kind of gravitate to Brooks Bryant, and it's Brooks Bryant and everybody else on Troy. This was a complete full team effort. And again, they're now the hunted. Last year they got to do a lot of the hunting. They're going to be a team that's on everybody's radar in a hot Sun Belt. And if they can get outings and hitting matchups and stuff like this outside of Brooks Bryant, they're going to be a very, very dangerous team. And again, they took a lot of high quality at bats. This was a game that I actually got to sit down and watch. Even their outs were really, really high quality. It felt like they never stacked bat at bat after bat at back. And again, every once in a while, you do need Brooks Bryant to come through, and he delivered for him with those 2 RBIs.
Yeah, and I look at this team. I know you and I have both been very high on this team from the start of the season, and they really have shown out. And this offense has been what we expected to be. I want to see a little bit more on the pitching side, but the fact that they keep winning games with the offense is very impressive. Their only 2 losses this year are Auburn and Alabama, 2 teams that are ranked in the
And
top
they were both
25.
midweeks. And again,
Right.
that's kind of where mid-majors get tested, is in the midweeks.
Yeah, but you're losing to 2 teams in your own state, 2 very good ball clubs that have turned out to be much better than even we thought they would be.
Mark, I do have a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Is Alabama turning into, remember how Virginia a few years ago was the center of college baseball? Do you think Alabama is kind of turning into the best state? They have Troy, they have
The
Auburn,
best
they have
state,
Alabama,
no. I still go Florida. I still think Florida's still the best. I mean, Florida State, those 2 teams are
UCF,
2.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, UCF, those are 3 teams that are in the top 25. Those are 3 teams that are very good and that could make some noise. And they could all technically win their conferences, and they're all in the same state. So I still go Florida, but Alabama's making a run with some really good baseball. And this is turning around, right? This is an Auburn team that didn't get into the tournament last year. This is Alabama, who has had their own struggles off the field, and then a Troy team that was really good last year and just didn't quite get over that hump. They might all be this year. So Alabama's making a run for it, Jake.
It's an incredible state, and it is it's what Mississippi was a few years ago, where every single team's loaded. All these teams kind of hate each other too, which is really kind of great for the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned last year, Alabama ran out of gas a little bit. Auburn had the injury bug. Troy, I felt like they never really showed us what they were capable of. And at least early, all 3 teams have really, really impressed.
I'm very happy with all those teams. Another team that's been very impressive and winning in different ways, Arkansas, 20-3 over Portland. Portland takes a 2-0 lead there, and then it's pretty much all Hiwa Aloy and Brent Iredell goes with the 2 home runs each. Iredell 8 RBIs. It was pretty much over. Gacko gave up those 2 runs early, Jake. Then he really settled into the guy that we think that he should be and could be in this season.
Yeah, and again, I'm kind of surprised that we're talking about a pitching matchup when they scored 20 runs, but I guess it just shows you how dynamic Gabe Gackel is. Yeah, he really settled in. I know that when Arkansas kind of added on, he was having these long innings. It really is kind of good practice for when you do have these monster innings to stay locked in, keep yourself warm. So it's a good test in that aspect. Nolan Souza is another Hawaiian guy that was really kind of had a slow start to the season. He's kind of starting to heat up for him, but this was the early window, and it felt like every time I was refreshing Twitter, I was seeing Iredale and Aloy just absolutely cranking home runs. They were hitting them opposite field. They were hitting them full side. They were hitting doubles. Yeah, Brent Irondale had 8 RBIs, and it felt like it was the footnote of the game. I think that's pretty good. But Arkansas has had their woes against Friday night guys. This was kind of the first time they faced a team that really didn't have an elite Friday night guy, and they punished them. So it's going to be a good litmus test for him next week when the competition gets a lot harder in SEC play. Because, yeah, I don't think that this was a quality. I don't think anybody's going to confuse Portland for having a quality Friday night guy. They definitely are a bullpen built team.
Yeah, and it's good for Arkansas to get rolling offensively, right? To figure some things out, get a little bit more healthy, feel a little bit more confidence in themselves. And yeah, I'm with you. I kept refreshing like 7 seconds ago. Another home. I just saw this was 15 minutes ago. What happened?
They couldn't, because it was a trail of Dennis tweeting about it, then Arkansas posting a graphic of them hitting, and then them posting the video,
and then the
video, and they were all like kind of jumbled in. So I'd see Dennis, like they were like 2 or 3 behind because they were cranking them out so fast.
And I was traveling over the mountain, so I'm like getting refreshers, but not at the same time. I'm like, what is happening here? What's going on? Oh, UCLA 12. They get their first win over Maryland here, 6 in the Big Ten. Maryland was up in this game 5-3 heading to the 9th. UCLA scores 3 in the top of the 9th on a Rock Cholowski 3-run bomb. Dude's going to be very, very good. Could be drafted very high this season. And then Maryland ties it back up with a Chris Hakopian home run. Another guy very, very talented. And 6 for 6 for UCLA there in the 10th inning as the pitching woes just continue for Maryland.
Yeah, Kyle McCoy was really great for Maryland to start the game, and then he got it tired a little bit. The fact that they kind of left him out there to dry a little bit, I think, shows about how they feel about their bullpen. They feel like even a tired James McCoy is the best chance. But I mean, credit to UCLA. It's hard to go across the country and win baseball games like this. and they got production from every single person during these kind of onslaught of 12 runs. My favorite moment, though, was Wyland Moss, the relief pitcher, since they burned the DH in the ninth inning. Some of these pitchers had to bat, and Waylon Moss snuck one through. I can be honest, it looked like a swing that a relief pitcher took, but it found a hole. And when it rains, it pours. UCLA is a tough program. They're a resilient program. I mean, you and I have talked off camera all the time about their woes in their field. And it is a tough ball club. They've been on the road, and they're going to win these gritty games despite being down 4-0, despite being shut out through 6. They end up putting up double-digit runs. And I think that kind of speaks to the team that UCLA has built.
And Savage is a great coach, right? So you know that he's going to keep his guys going the right direction. I feel like this is a different team than they were a season ago, where they were really a big letdown with so much talent on that team.
I think it's a different team than even a week ago. I mean, they are definitely progressing at the right time.
Yeah, I like where this UCLA team is heading. Georgia Tech 4, Virginia Tech 3. They scored 2 in the top of the ninth to take the lead and get the victory. Georgia Tech pitchers was the key here today. Holding Vatek to only 4 hits, Jake.
Yeah, and Mason Patel for Georgia Tech is quietly one of the most underrated arms in the ACC. Virginia Tech is a talented lineup, but you look up and down it. I mean, like I said, you look up and down, it's just 300, 300, 300. But I think the thing that really impressed me was Kent Schmidt. Every time, I always root for him to do good, so Monty can post that meme. And then Kyle Lodies is another guy. He had a hit for him too as well. But, they got production from everywhere. Vaughn Lackey, I know that he's kind of a glove first guy. If they can get him going, he can be an absolute monster for him. But again, it's the one thing that we always worried about with Georgia Tech is the bullpen. And at least early in ACC play, one game in, they seem to have the best bullpen in the ACC.
Yeah, I think it's a much improved bullpen. I think this pitching staff has taken a huge leap forward. And this is a night where their superstar and maybe best player in college baseball, Drew Burress, didn't do much offensively for them. And they still go out there and they find a way to win. Great win on the road. Every win you can win in conference on the road is still big. And lots of road teams in the Big Ten and ACC won this week. And big there won on Friday night for Georgia Tech to go out there and get that W. Xavier 3, Vanderbilt 15. It was tied at 3s in the third inning, Jake. And then Vandy busted it open, and freshman Brody Johnson, another pair of home runs. This guy has really turned it on the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he should have had a third one too, by the way, because he kind of got caught in that weird outlet where if it's 4 feet to the right, it's a home run. If it's 4 feet to the left, it bangs off the wall. So for as good of an out as he had, he really kind of had an argument to have an even better one. Again, we know what we're going to get with Brody Johnson. Colin Barcy is another guy that continues to kind of impress me. He's kind of starting to get a little bit rolling. We talk all the time about these people outside of Brody Johnson that need to hit home runs. They didn't really have any of that tonight, but I think that it was a really kind of team effort. I always forget about RJ Austin. I know that's really weird to say just because it feels like everybody's Brody Johnson, Brody Johnson, Brody Johnson. RJ Austin is still kind of the leader of this team when you watch him.
Yeah, he is.
It was an incredible pitching matchup too. I know JD Thompson kind of had a little bit of bad luck as he just gave up 2 home runs. Both of them were not cheap, but that was really the entire offense for Xavier. They were throwing a no-hitter until they gave up the first one, and then he rebounded. He's quietly one of my favorite pitchers in the SEC. I think he's in that top group. He absolutely goes out and shoves. Again, it is Xavier. It is PSAT week at the SEC, so stuff could kind of get weird, but, A+ on Friday night for me for Vandy.
Yeah, and for me, it was the bullpen, right? That's one thing we were like, we know Vandy had tons of starting pitching. We're like, they got starting pitching. They're fine there. How's the bullpen going to handle adversity? And they really came up and they stepped up well today. Big win for Vanderbilt there after being tied at 3s in the third. Another team, Jake, who got their first win in a conference, Cal, 14-1 at Duke. Cal uses 5 home runs. Everybody's just left wondering here right now for Duke. The question marks are all over the place. Big offense, though, for Cade Campbell, 3 for 5, 5 RBIs, and Alex Burge, the catcher there for Cal, 2 home runs. But everybody's left questioning Duke, and we love this Duke team. Everybody was high on this Duke team early, and we're just lost. And even Coach Pollard's going, we have so much more talent than this. We play better than this. We practice better than this. Everybody's kind of just questioning what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one on paper, especially, Chris Pollard mentioned it in that interview that Monty sent us over. Like, Duke should have gone in and dominated this game. They were throwing a lefty that hit that throws a ton of changeups. That was Cal's kind of Achilles heel. And, that's why you play the game of baseball sometimes, though, is, they go in, they give up 5 in the first, It was a really short game after that. I mean, you're not going to win any games when Kyle Johnston goes 1 1/3, and
Yeah.
you're doubly not going to win games when you throw a complete game shutout. Just a complete F for Duke because they really didn't do anything right because Cal didn't have to use the bullpen. Duke had to really dig deep into their bag of tricks from a confidence standpoint. How do you respond if you're Duke baseball? Because it felt like everybody was kind of like, okay, just get into conference play, get playing teams that you're used to playing, and you'll be fine. And I don't want to. This is nothing to take away from Cal. They are probably the 15th or 16th best team in the ACC from a talent standpoint, and you get punched in the mouth on Friday night when you're supposed to have your ace. You're supposed to be this hot up and coming team in the ACC. I don't know where you go from here. I really don't. It's going to take a phenomenal coaching job, I think, to get them out of this little rut.
You're talking about two teams that traveled from California out to North Carolina, and Stanford and Cal going out there and beating two very good baseball teams in North Carolina. It's crazy to look at it and go, okay, what do we do next? I feel like Duke's going to bounce back. I know that this might just be a feeling because I think Pollard's a great coach. Duke's going to bounce back. I think they're going to fight back. I think you're going to see something different today. Maybe they shake the lineup up. Maybe they try something different. But I think that this team is too good to keep down this long for how it started off this season.
Yeah, they definitely have to figure something out. And here's the weird thing for me is they're an old team. They're not a team that's starting a ton of freshmen. So you're like, okay, they're going to go through their freshman blues and then figure it out. Like Wallace Clark's a 4-year guy. Ben Miller's a 4-year guy. Somebody's got to step up. And I don't really know who it is. It's going to have to be somebody from Micah or Monty's side that says who needs to step up. But, I mean, this season can really spiral out of control really quickly for this Duke team.
Yeah, but they can also flip it just as easily, right? They can get right back on the track and get going. Another ACC team we're looking at here, Lipscomb 1, Florida State 10. The big question here was the Jamie Arnold scratched. He was supposed to start, and then he scratched before game time. Joey Vellini goes. He's 4-0 now. Joey Vellini's been terrific in this short season so far for Florida State. Max Williams and Cal Fisher provide the offense there. But really, the question mark was Jamie Arnold missing the time.
Yeah, Brett Nevitt had a really good quote on it from Westman, or like Jarrett said, Jamie is fine. His arm is fine. He didn't feel 100%. He could have pitched if he wanted to, but I just didn't feel comfortable. I mean, but what a luxury it is for like Jarrett that he can go in and the guy who's replacing your Friday night guy, 6 hits, 1 runs. I have been really impressed with Gage Harrelson coming over from Texas Tech. He's fit absolutely nicely into this one. He played center field last year for the Red Raiders. They moved him over to right. They kind of moved him around. He's looked absolutely incredible. He's accepted this new role from what I can tell. And I think he's a big part of Florida State's success is that it's always kind of a risk when you get transfer portal people with how they're going to fit. And I would say Gage Harrelson looks like he should have been at Florida State the last 2 years.
It is great for Florida State to just be able to go, oh, Joey, we need you to go now. We just need you to go out there and go win. And he's 4-0, like I said, on this season. So Florida State continues its role as they win there fairly easily against Lipscomb. Notre Dame 5, Wake Forest 19. There's the Wake offense we've literally been looking for all season, Jake. They finally get going here. They get up 5-0 in a hurry. Merrick Houston gets 10 RBIs. I mean, he has been a lot of the offense for Wake Forest, but it felt like the rest of the team really actually got going in this one against Notre Dame.
I actually didn't watch this one. I thought that was a typo when I went and looked at the notes this morning that Merrick Houston had 10 RBIs. I mean, people got to get on base for him to get 10 RBIs. He's not going to hit 10 RBIs on his own. I came away really impressed. Again, it is Notre Dame. Monty is going to say that Notre Dame's decent enough. It is Notre Dame. But, you know, at the end of the day, Wake Forest is 1-0 in the ACC, so they really don't have to answer to us.
It's been the questions on offense, right? And to see them go out there and at a home ACC game put up the 19 runs, got to make you feel a little bit better if you're a Wake Forest fan, where you've been known. You're like, hey, we got a terrific pitching staff. You know, we may not have the high-end aces that we've had in the past this year, but you got a full bullpen. You got a full team squad there going. The offense getting going 19-5 is just a huge win there for Wake as we move into more ACC play. Great to see them get going. Michigan 12, Illinois 7. This was a sneaky game there. Benjamin Casillas, the leadoff hitter for Michigan, goes 4 for 5 with 6 RBIs, and Will Rogers also 3 for 4. Grant Ross and Jack Zibig, both homer in the loss for the Illini, but big win for Michigan to start off Big Ten play.
Yeah, first off, They played this at the Jackie Robinson complex down in Florida, and I did have to wait to get it confirmed that it was actually going to be a Big Ten game because sometimes they play these weird kind of. It was a Big Ten game. Um, Michigan's quietly, I think, one of the best teams in the Big Ten that no one really seems to be talking about. They traveled really well. Everybody kind of got really high on them in that first weekend. Um, I keep saying this every time we talk about Michigan. Could you imagine how much of a monster they would be if Eric Bakich had stayed and they had kept some of those recruits like Nolan Schubart and stuff like this? Because, I mean, this is just an absolutely incredible, deep team. They're a team that kind of takes on Tracy in a way.
Yeah.
I really like Mitch Voigt. I know that he really didn't have the game that he's capable of. Jeter Diabara was another guy that really impressed me when I watched him
Another
in that
transfer
Arlington
guy.
series.
Yeah.
They have a lot of guys. Like, they're not this kind of same old Michigan, if you will, where they're just scrappy underdogs. Like, they have some dogs.
I like Michigan this year. I think Tracy is done a terrific job with this squad. They're gonna battle for Big Ten. I think that they're a lot higher on that ranking than folks had them at the preseason. I like what they're doing, and the offense has been the biggest surprise for Michigan for me is that they just keep rolling and being able to find ways to score runs
They're
from
going to out
different
talent a
guys.
lot of teams in the Big Ten. I will say
Yeah.
that. Obviously, they'll have Tracy is going to have to get them ready, get them hungry, and keep them hungry. But I mean, if you look on paper, there's really not too many Big Ten series that you have them losing.
Nope, I'll be at the one though where I think they probably don't win, and that's the one that they travel out to Oregon. I'll be down there for some of that series down there on
That'd be
that
a good
fourth,
one.
fifth, and sixth weekend. Yep, can't wait. Boston College, maybe the surprise of the day in the ACC. 7, Virginia 4. A 5-run eighth inning is enough for BC to just take it. Arroyo and Becker are really the only offense going for Virginia. I know Ford had an RBI in the hit also, but man, where's this team at, Jake? This is a team that we all talked about hitting maybe 200 home runs. The offensive production's not there, and Wolford had a great start. Like he goes out there and does what he's supposed to do, took care of business, should have given them a chance to win this game, and then they gave up all those runs in the eighth. It's just baffling to me that this Virginia squad just keeps finding ways to lose rather than win.
Yeah, and we got to see them up close and personal when they went 1-2 in that Round Rock series. I know you probably followed it because you went to Oregon State. They don't strike me as a team in person that I think warranted a lot of the power numbers that they were being given. Like they're a lot smaller of a team when you look at them next to some of these SEC teams that hit bombs. And at least early on, they really have been kind of too reliant on the home run ball. I felt like the thing that I saw them with 2 weeks ago is they didn't really have high quality at bats. And when you get into conference play, that is where you kind of get exposed because all these conference teams look for is deficiencies and weaknesses. And there was something that Boston College found that eluded them to have a really, really good outing. They didn't strike out a ton of guys, but they found something because there was a lot of weak contact for them. And again, it was a Jay Wolfhook start. You really can't piss away some of these starts that you get from Friday night guys because it really kind of sets you up bad for the rest of the weekend. And Virginia is very capable of coming and winning the next 2 games and taking the series. But when you play these teams that are kind of near the bottom of the ACC, especially when you're at home, you really do have to go out and sweep.
Yeah, and this is one. I mean, they really need to get. They have to win the rest of the weekend here for them to be feeling any sort of confidence heading into the rest of this ACC tournament.
They're going
The
to look
rest of
back on
SEC
this
play.
one with regret if they're in kind of the hunt to be. I know that they have a new tournament format with the ACC,
Yeah.
but the standings still matter. This is going to be one that they wish that they could have back.
Yeah, and they just got to start playing better baseball. They have the capability, they have the talent, they have the people there, they have the coaching staff. I feel like they're going to make that turn at some point, same way we talk about Duke. But this is a team that should be much better. I mean, this is a top 5 team in a lot of ways that people had them ranked preseason, and they're dropping fast. All right, Jake, I don't know how many Chinook seeds you had this weekend, but I gave away almost a case and a half yesterday before the Beaver game out to the Beaver faithful at the home opener for Goss Stadium. They were going crazy, and people kept messaging me during the game. They're going, "This cinnamon toast is like the best flavor of sunflower seed." I was like, "What?" Like people like, I'm not giving all out of the flavors, and people are like, "You got any more of that cinnamon toast?" I'm like, "I don't. That's the sampler boxes. I'm sorry, guys."
I will say this: we might have to do a seed free or seed friendly parks because when I was at Rice this week during the week, they are not seed friendly, so I unfortunately couldn't have any seeds. And actually, some of the Lamar guys were like, "Oh, like, do you have any seeds? Do you have any seeds?" And unfortunately, I didn't have any to give out. I will say this: there is kind of a debate that is rising between sweet sunflower seeds and spicy sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
It seems like there's some like alliances where people who like spicy don't like sweet, and people who like sweet don't like spicy. So that might have to be our next poll: is do you like the sweet sunflower seeds or the spicy ones? Because I'm team
Split.
spicy.
I go jalapeno ranch and the hatch chili are so good.
The
And the
Parmesan
smokehouse
and
barbecue, but
pepper,
yeah,
the Parmesan
there's
and pepper is still my
Parmesan and
go-to.
pepper. That's literally my fishing one. I take it out with me. I swear to God, I take it fishing with me, Jake, and then I hammer freaking bass and trout all day. I don't understand it. It works. I don't know if it's on the line that it smells, but it crushes for me. But if you guys want to go buy some, go out, use our code CBC. You get 10% off your whole order. They got sampler boxes if you don't know what you want to buy. If you want to buy a dozen big bags of your favorite, go on there, buy their stuff. They also got T-shirts I saw on there, Jake, and some other fun stuff. So
And
go
I've been
out
trying
there.
to get a hat out of our boy Beard. So
Yeah.
use the code CBC so I can get a Chinook hat.
Yes, code CBC, 10% off your order. Go out there and buy these sunflower seeds. They are literally the best seeds on the planet. And we will continue to be doing giveaways where we're going to meet you out at stadiums and hand away these sunflower seeds. Make more ballparks sunflower
Hold on,
seed friendly.
Mark, I have a new contest, and we might need to get this clipped after the show. There's been a lot of people, you included, that send me lookalikes of college baseball players. That send me Jonah Hill from Moneyball. We're gonna do a show. If you can do a best lookalike with me, we'll send you a case of seeds.
I like it. I like it.
So,
Yeah,
go ahead
I
and hit
love
my
that.
DMs with all of my lookalikes.
That's terrific. I love it. Get all over it, folks. Send Jake all the lookalikes of Jake out there in the college baseball realm. I love that. All right, let's get back to some fun games that happened last night. St. Bonaventure 0, Tennessee 12. Combined no hitter there for Tennessee, first one since 2002. Tony V said, I didn't even really know what was happening, so I guess I better get like a bench coach or something to help me to realize when things like this are happening. He's like, also, I didn't realize Gavin was almost going for a cycle there. So, but Peebles, Bargo, Gavin, and Fisher, they all hit home runs there last night. Big day for Tennessee as they continue to roll.
Yeah, it was probably one of the weirdest games I think I've ever got a chance to sit down and watch as I was kind of had the quad box going. It was the most lackadaisical 10-0 run I'd ever seen.
With a
Like,
no hitter.
yeah, with a no hitter, with the cycle, like it just got really weird too because the St. Bonaventure brought in that one pitcher with the weird stance, and they were just so locked in with it. I will say this: Tennessee still has an embarrassment of riches from a bullpen standpoint.
Yeah.
Tanner Franklin, Brandon Arvinson I think he was kind of that Sunday opener for a little bit. I think that they're going to slide in a few other guys into that Sunday opener role. I saw an interesting stat with Tennessee that when Tony Vitello was hired his first year, they hit 42 home runs the entire season at Lindsey Nelson. Through March 7th, Tennessee is at 42 home runs for the season. Just an absolutely embarrassment of riches. They're changing college baseball for the better. And it's not going to be, it's going to be Tony Vitello Field at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. The only question is, are they going to do it when he's still the coach?
I love what Tony V's done there, and I think that he's built this culture, and these guys want to be there, and they play fun baseball, and it's an exciting time for college baseball, right? And we've seen it. Guys are wanting to transfer in there because they want to be a part of this special team, and they're going out there and they're taking care of business. I didn't think that they'd be this good again this early this season. I thought it would take some growing pains after you win a national championship. They look like they picked up right where they left off at the end of last season, Jake.
I don't get how Ole Miss let Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher walk. Like, legitimately, it's an incredible thing that these two guys are in Knoxville because we get to talk about them more. I don't know what's flipped for Liam Doyle because I know last year he had a little bit of the walk bug. His fastball wasn't as sharp as it has been this year. Shout out to 6'4 Analytics for that kind of stat. Tennessee found something with him. They unlocked his mental side of his game. And I don't know if it's because he can pitch free and easy because he knows the lineup can score 10 runs at any time, but he looks like a changed pitcher. He looked like when I was a kid in MLB The Show, staying over at a friend's house. They said. So when I would play MLB The Show as a kid, I would cheat. And when I would go and sign pitchers, I'd jack up all the stats. That's kind of what Tony V did with Liam Doyle this year. Like the Ks per nine is like everything is up. And he was a good pitcher last year, but he's just on another level this year.
Yeah, he's pitching very well, and this team just seems to just keep rolling, and the talent is so deep, like we've talked about. Another team, though, that has been very surprising for a lot of us, and like we talked about before, the state of Alabama beating Presbyterian 10-0. Justin LeBron keeps up his stuff. He's 3 for 5, 3 RBIs. Brady Neal goes out there, gets a hit and 2 RBIs. I think the biggest surprise for me though, Jake, has been Zane Adams on Friday. 3-0 now, 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, and 10 Ks. He looks the part of a Friday night starter in SEC ball.
Yeah, I said this yesterday that I'll get to go to this game Friday night, A&M Texas or Texas A&M and Bama. The most person I'm excited to see is Zane Adams, and that's
Yeah.
incredible to think about that they have somebody like Justin LeBron, and I'm more excited to see Zane Adams. The thing that's really stuck out to me though has been how much these guys have bought in. Jason Torres coming over from Miami, he's had a new role. I know they played him at first, they played him at third, they DH'd him. Will Hodo, who's the captain, they have him at first. Again, he went 3 for 4 last night, so it's a good time to talk about him. He's a guy, I mean, if you think about it, captain, everybody loves him.
Yep.
SEC caliber first baseman. They go and recruit somebody in the portal who can play first, and he takes it like a champ. When I talked to Rob Vaughn, he said, yeah, he goes, anything that I can do to make this team better, like bring him in. And that really is kind of a good mindset. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, bring in whoever you want. I'll beat him out. Will Hodo was like, I don't care if he beats me out. If he can beat me out, like I just want to
Better
make
for the
this team
team,
better.
it's better for us. Yep.
And I'll say another thing. It is absolutely wild that some of these SEC teams that had openings this last year didn't interview Rob Vaughn. I think Rob Vaughn's sneakily one of the best coaches in the SEC.
I
If
think
not,
Alabama's going to try to hold on to him. They're just going to try to figure out how to keep him for a very
yes.
long
And
time.
Alabama, I know the stadium's in a weird spot. I know that it's a weird, ugly stadium. We need to have some student buy-in from Alabama. It is an absolutely rowdy place for football and basketball. I think the baseball team might be even the best of the 3 this year. They're
Continuing
that good.
continuing to be good, Jake. That's what really builds these
They're
programs up.
progressing. They're progressing.
Being good. Yeah.
They're an exciting team too. Like Zane Adams isn't going to give up a ton of runs. You
No,
have
they're
probably
fun.
the best player in the SEC right now. Like get out to the ballpark. Insider sources say you can bring coolers in, so turn it into like a little kind of left field lounge out there.
Have fun. Have fun. Go out to the ballpark because this team's going to be fun to watch all year, I feel. Dallas Baptist 5, Louisiana 6. Both teams score 3 in the ninth as the Raging Cajuns walk it off with the Yahoos 2 RBI double. Chayton Krause for DBU goes 3 for 5 with a home run, but it wasn't enough as Louisiana wins that home game 6-5.
Yeah, they won it on a walk-off, and it was absolutely electric. You give up 3 at the top of the ninth and then immediately turn around and do it. I really like Lee Amadei. I know that he went 0 for that day, but there's not really too many chances that we're going to get to talk about UL on this show.
Yeah.
I think Lee Amadei is one of my favorite players in the Sun Belt this year. He has a really smooth lefty swing. He has a really, really good approach. Sam Ardwan coming over from Texas too.
Yeah.
He was a guy that the coach at Texas kind of told to leave, and he immediately finds a new home. He is Louisiana boy at heart, as he's from, I believe, Moss Bluff, Louisiana, but he's absolutely fitting in nicely at this team. I am super, super excited to kind of see where they go from here because it is a very deep, deep Sun Belt. But when you beat teams like DBU, who are probably going to be a 1 or 2 seed, it's going to go a long way in tournament time.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are the things that you have to figure out how to win ball games. And DBU has been on the cusp of winning some really big ball games. They've won some big ball games. They've beat some good teams, but they've also lost some of these games that I feel like they're going to want back later in the season here. CSUN 3, UCSB 4, 13 innings this one takes, and it's a balk-off. As they win with the balk-off there, the balk in the run, UCSB, just tremendous pitching effort there from their bullpen. They go 7 2/3 with just 2 hits and 2 walks. Xavier Esker goes 3 for 6 in the game in the effort there. Kind of a weird way to win, but you'll take every win you can, especially in conference play.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time, every time we talk about UCSB, about Tyler Brenner. But how about the bullpen in this one? I think it was
Bullpen was great.
7 1/3, 2-hit ball, no runs.
Yeah.
I mean, Brenner was good, but he wasn't good by his standards, only going 5 1/3. If you would have told the coach that, hey, you're only going to get 5 1/3 out of Brenner, and we're going to go into extra innings, I'm sure he probably wouldn't have felt that good about it. But when you have these guys like Nick Peterson, Van Froling, who, again, I'm going to be honest, I don't know a ton about these pitchers, but this was the only game on in that late window. They absolutely impressed. Like if they can figure out 4 or 5 bullpen arms, they can be like a power 5 bullpen. They're going to be a dangerous team when they come to host.
Yeah, and I said it during our preseason shows when people asked me why I had them ranked as high. I said it's the pitching staff. They're gonna have to figure out ways to score. That's the biggest knock right now on UCSB. They're gonna have to figure out ways to score. But that pitching staff is no joke, one of the better in the country. And it usually starts with Brimner. And he wasn't even the best guy on the day when the bullpen comes in and goes 7 2/3. You're like, boy, I don't know how else you're gonna get after these guys, especially if they're gonna pitch like that.
Yeah, I don't know how you beat this team. Bunting, maybe.
Yeah. San Diego 3, Oregon State 11. I was at this game last night. It was a terrific atmosphere there at Goss Stadium. Nelson Keljo, great start, goes out there and shuts San Diego out for 5 innings, 8 Ks. Trent Caraway was the story, though. He goes 4 for 5, finally gets his first home run of the season. He also had 3 doubles, Jake. This guy was hitting the ball over the ballpark. Arquette missed a home run by a couple inches. Peterson hits a double and a triple, and Talt has a big RBI double. This team is starting to come back alive from where we thought, okay, they're 7-3, they got to figure something out. Being back at home was a big help.
Was this their home opener, by the way?
This was the home opener for Oregon State. Yep.
They looked really, really good. I know that when I saw them 2 weeks ago in Austin, they didn't look the best, but Mitch just oozes confidence. And he was like, yeah, they're going to get it figured out. And sure enough, they did. I mean, I think that they're too good of a team to not figure it out. Trent Caraway is a guy that turned down MLB draft money to come, and he's absolutely shoving. I will say this, Mark, and since you got to go and see Oregon State for the first time, they have a very underrated set of walk-up songs. It's not your typical It's not your typical walk-up songs. I think as a team collectively, they have the best set of walk-up songs because there's just so much variety in it. Like they have classic, they have SoCal swing. It really is. And you can tell every single one of them where they're from based off their walk-up songs.
Oh, it's 100%. Yeah. Weber got the country song going. You go, Arquette's going out there with some Hawaiian. It's great. I love it. And you just listen to the walk-up songs and it's different every time. I hadn't even thought about bringing it up, but I love that. It's terrific. This Oregon State team is fun. The fans were great last night. Going out there again tonight and tomorrow. I'll be there for both the games to end out the series. Good to see the offense get going, but really good to see Nelson Keljo, who went 5 innings, get his first official win, even though he's been really good in his other 3 starts. He just hasn't gone 5 innings.
And Trent Caraway almost had a cycle too as well, by the way.
Yeah, he was 4 for 5. He had single, 3 doubles, he had 3 doubles and a homer, so he needed a single and a triple.
Oh,
he didn't hit a single. He had 4 extra base hits last night.
And then I really like the bats Kevin Turley's kind of done. When I got to watch him last week in Arlington,
professional.
Even when he flies out, I know that he kind of didn't really have the best weekends when I got to see him in Texas. Sometimes that's just going to happen in baseball. I think that I really like the way that he kind of approaches his at bats.
Yeah, I think that he's grown a lot this year, and he's really in that spot where, he's trying to be professional ready, and this whole team really is just getting going. I think that there's going to be a lot more offense, and they have traveled to these places where they were hoping was going to be warm and nice, and they all ended up being cold and crappy. I think that as the weather progresses here and they get more games down in California, I think that this team's going to be very happy, and the one in Hawaii.
So. Hank didn't do a weather report on the notes. I wanted to see what the weather was like
today.
Yeah.
It was 40 last night down there in Corvallis, and the wind was blowing in from center field, so it was cold.
So just cold. Like it was when they came to Texas.
So yeah, it felt just about the same being at home. Speaking of a home team, Coastal Carolina 0, ECU 7. A pair of Kobe Wallace homers would be enough of the offense there for ECU, but the big thing was Coastal could hold the 4 hits only, and Ethan Norby 7 1/3 and 19 strikeouts. Jake.
Yeah, just an incredible outing. I posted the question, what's more impressive, Irondale's 8 RBIs or Ethan Norby's 19 strikeouts? Everybody kind of said Ethan Norby.
19.
Yeah, I mean, that was just an incredible outing. He only faced 25 batters. It reminded me of that Hagen Smith versus Oregon State start from last year. Just an incredible thing. Does nobody work in Greenville, South Carolina, by the way? Because why were there so many fans at the game for it being like a day game? It was, and it's Greenville, North Carolina.
You know this just as much as I do. The jungle's crazy out there, and Pirate Nation really loves this club. They haven't performed this year yet, but this is a good thing to get them going, especially against a team that some people have ranked. I know you and I don't have Coastal ranked, but some people have had Coastal Carolina ranked, and ECU going out there and just shutting them down like this is a big home game for them.
I think it's fine that they don't have all these expectations, by the way, because it felt like everybody has just kind of been penciling them, and it's like, oh yeah, this will be the year they go to Omaha. This was kind of the first year in a while that kind of nobody had them in it. And I think that that's really what they want, is it can be more free and easy. And at least early on, they kind of they've exceeded expectations in my head. I will say I didn't have a ton of expectations for them, but Coastal's a quality win. And to just blow them out like this on a Friday night is, and again, Coastal didn't exactly give the game to ECU. They did it through home runs. They did it through walking. It's going to be interesting to see the next 2 days. Because I have cursed ECU before, and I'm not going to do that.
I love it. Gonzaga won, Arizona State 11. Gonzaga's a team that I had picked to win the WCC this year. Arizona State looks like they've improved so much, and Ben Jacobs, who's big on a lot of draft prospects, he goes 6-0 or 6 innings, 1 hit, 6 Ks, gets the win. Just 3 hits for the Zag Dogs all day. Kian Vu for Arizona State gets a double and a home run. It was a lot of doubles there, not a lot of home runs, which was a surprise for Arizona State. But good to see Ben Jacobs get back out there and just dominate.
Yeah, and Manny Garza is a guy that they really need to get going if they're Arizona State. The Rice transfer coming over, he had 2 hits for them.
Yeah.
Um, I, I, the thing that I've always said with Arizona State is I feel like they never live up to the expectations that you give them. If you have them making the tournament, they go under 500. If you have them being a host, they go to a 2 seed. It'll be interesting to see kind of how they go now that they have a little bit higher of expectations,
Yeah.
if they can finally live up to them. Because again, I felt like they never have lived up to the expectations, even going back to like the Dustin Pedroia years, like 15 years ago. This is a make or break year for Willie Bloomquist. I think that just because they have so much talent on this team.
And they're
And
investing a lot, Jake. They're investing a lot into this baseball program. They want Arizona State baseball to be back. The school's investing a lot of money and
they're about to get a new
scholarships and
stadium, I
everything.
believe, too, as well.
Yep, and they're
Yeah, they're
playing
getting a
right now at
renovation.
Phoenix Municipal. Be great for them to have one back on campus like it was with Packard. But I really think that this Arizona State team is going the right direction. They've played some good baseball games. They've played well at home. The test is going to be when they start Big 12 play and they go on the road. I want to see what they can do on the road games. But really, they've been playing second fiddle to Arizona the last decade, and I think that Arizona State fans are just tired of it. They're really over it, say here in the Wildcats. So Arizona State, good to see.
I know. I noticed you didn't have that in your notes, by the way. That Arizona's not in your notes.
Arizona's not in my notes. No. But here's the thing. I tried to leave out the games that really we only got time for like 25 games, Jake. We're already at 42 minutes here into this podcast, and we don't have time to go out there and go get after all these games. But we're gonna get after this next one, which I did have in my notes the whole time because Oklahoma's been very good. Sam Houston 5, Oklahoma 6. Kyson gets his 4th straight win there. 1 hit, 12 Ks. He was terrific. But Sam Houston scores 3 in the 9th, just not enough. Easton Carmichael also homered there for Oklahoma his first of the season.
Yeah, he hit a home run into that new section that they have out there in Oklahoma, and the place just looked absolutely nuts. It looks like a Dollar Tree version of the Eddie Yard as a term of endearment. But I mean, you're going to have times like this. I mean, Jason Bodine's been absolute nails for this Oklahoma team.
Yeah.
He's been pitching multiple days in a weekend. I think that it finally caught up to him a little bit. I'd rather him have this kind of start now against the Sam Houston team than get it in SEC play. I will say this. They did a ton of hard labor to get Ryan Peterson to a high pitch count. And then once they got into that bullpen, I felt like they didn't really take advantage. I think Oklahoma's got to add on. I will say this. It did kind of feel like once they chased that starter, everybody kind of just took a deep, deep breath. So I think Skip Johnson will kind of get them up to again today.
Yeah. They didn't play their typical ball where they didn't get guys on base. They didn't steal. They didn't put pressure on Sam Houston, which is something that Oklahoma's been very good at so far this season.
They didn't get a walk. That was the one thing that really stood out to me is I felt like they always kind of thrive when they get walks. Kyson Witherspoon's, I think, one of the best pitchers in the SEC. Jason Bodine's going to be one of the best bullpen arms from going forward. He didn't really show it tonight, but this kind of stuff's going to happen with bullpen arms.
Absolutely, and you still get the win. Still got the win. That's the big one, man. Santa Clara 2, Texas 4. Flores 2 RBI double there in the 5th. Borba home run there in the 6th. Gives the Longhorns enough. Jared Spencer goes 5 innings, 2 hits, 8 Ks, 0 runs. Max Krebs goes the other way. Like we talked about, he went the 4 innings there, and just the 2 pitches for Texas. Is Texas... I mean, they only have the 1 loss, Jake. Are we feeling good about Texas? I mean, Santa Clara's a pretty good team out west.
I will say this. Shout out to Occupy Left Field. It was his birthday yesterday.
Happy
Texas
birthday.
is 8-0 on his birthday. They look like they were getting out of it. I'll say this about Texas. I think that it's time to move them into the tier 1 of SEC teams. But with that, I think comes a lot more criticism. And I felt like ever since that first weekend in Houston when we moved them up into tier 1 and they run roll, Ole Miss, they beat Oklahoma State. I felt like since then they haven't really impressed. And granted, the weather played a little bit of the factor. But again tonight, Santa Clara is a decent team. But at the same time, like
they're decent.
They didn't shut them out. They didn't run roll them. Like I felt like if you're going to be in these tier 1 SEC teams, You have to play like a tier 1 SEC team. And again, they're still kind of working through some stuff with their lineup.
Yeah.
Easton Winfield and Tommy Farmer, Casey Borba as the DH, third baseman, second baseman. They're still working through some stuff, but I will say this: they have, I think, two really good, confident bullpen arms that they're going to use in SEC play in Rigor Riojas and Max Grubb, and that's going to win them a ton of games. They're going to need to get long outings from their starting pitching, though, and they've had that so far. But if we're going to move Texas into this tier 1, I think that opens them up to a lot more criticism.
I think they need to get the offense going. Blue's going to get going also. I think that they're going to figure this thing out. I'm not panicking on Texas yet. I mean, their only losses to Louisville in a one-run game, but I am
In a
questioning
walk-off.
going. Yeah, it was a walk-off, but I'm still questioning the offense right now. They're really going to have to get going in SEC play if they want to win some of these games.
I think they're a top 5 SEC team if it started right now. But again, we always nitpick LSU for not hitting home runs. We nitpick Tennessee for
Nothing
wearing
this year.
ugly uniforms. We
Yeah.
nitpick A&M. Like, if you're going to be in that S tier, like, you have to be open to criticism. And from an S tier standpoint, they haven't looked like an elite team the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, Canes, Cats, Heat. Guess what? We saved you. You know, you missed the first 43 minutes of the show, but you popped in right at the right time. UConn 7, Miami 2. 6 runs in the third proved to be way too much for the Hurricane. Sam Biller grand slam really capped off that third inning, and Miami just never got the bats going at all yesterday, Jake.
Yeah, they probably got food poisoning from that god awful Matt Light shake that they had. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
It was a
It's
Philly
like a Philly.
cheese
It's
steak.
like a Philly cheesesteak on top of like a vanilla shake or something.
It was the most vile and disgusting thing. And they really kind of played like they were food. They had food poisoning. A lot of errors, a lot of walks from the pitching staff. This is not a good UConn team. This is a bad loss for Miami. If Miami wants to return to the tournament, you have to win games like this.
But I like Miami this year. I do. I think that they're making a turn in the corner. I think that they're in that mid tier. They're not that top tier or ACC teams, but I think they're going to be right there. So I'm wondering if this is just one of those times where you're like not playing ACC ball yet. The rest of the teams in the ACC are playing, and you're like, we're not coming out 100%.
So last year it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I think this year it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Again, they're still stepping back. There's a lot of guys on here that you think would be good, but at least early on, it seems like they're really good against bad teams. I have them in kind of that Kentucky, Georgia range where it's like, okay, they're not absolute dog shit like Missouri, but I really don't know how good they are. I think that they'll be like a 3 seed somewhere.
I like the bullpen better than I did last year. I think the starting pitching take a step back. I think the offense is taking a little step back. But, you know, I really want to see more from this Miami team. I'm excited. I think that there's still some excitement in the air for this Miami squad, but we're going to have to see what happens. I mean, the bullpen has been just terrific for me in my mindset and what I've seen, but they've really got to go out there and get those starts and get the offense going. Get the offense rolling, Jake. Miami used to have a lot of offense. Let's see it come back.
We need some Jobu, some cigars for Jobu.
I love it. UNC Wilmington 6, Southern Miss 3. Big win on the road there for Wilmington. Alec DiMartino and Bromley Thornton home runs enough to power past the Golden Eagles. This is a Golden Eagle team that people started ranking a couple weeks ago. I never jumped on that bandwagon. I just didn't see it for me. I said that I had some issues with their rotation on the weekend. And UNC Wilmington, good ball club. They haven't really performed well this season quite yet, but this is a good one to get them going.
Yeah, they did take 2 of 3 from that TCU team last week, and then immediately rewarded us by giving them credit by getting their shit kicked in by Mississippi State, and then immediately turning around and losing at home to UNC.
Game. Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about them. I really don't. Like
I said it from the start. I have questions about their weekend rotation, Jake.
I do. I have questions about their bats. I think that their bats at times are really, really elite, and then at other times they just completely disappear.
Yeah.
I know that their fans always try and come for me, so I always try and give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because they're fans. I don't really think they're that good. They're better than years past, but I mean, I felt like I learned more about TCU not being a good team than Southern Miss being a good team last week, and at least through one day, that really is kind of what's happened.
I don't know if I can say that they're better than years past because they've had some stud starting pitchers, right? I don't see that this year. The offense is just hit or miss for me. I'm not jumping on either direction of Southern Miss, but I'm not putting them in my top 25 anytime soon. They're going to have to prove that they belong there for me. And this big win for UNC Wilmington on the road, bad loss for Southern Miss at home.
Yeah.
All right, Jake, our favorite segment, who did something cool. There was a lot this weekend.
I would say the Tulane Green Wave did something cool because they played around. They almost had what would have been considered the worst loss of any team in the country, losing to North Dakota State. I'll see if the box score has kind of this play that I'm talking about. Yeah, they get 2 in the ninth on a Michael Lombardi single. That was not a single. Give me a break. Single/error to the second baseman. Allows the runner to score to tie it, and then he throws the ball away, the second baseman for North Dakota State, who shall remain nameless, for Tulane to score. Both of them were unearned. They just had an unreal falling apart if you're North Dakota State. Tulane didn't play very good at all. Their starter only went 4 1/3 through 4, but they did something good. And
Win's a win.
Shout out to Kane's Cat, who has this comment, if you want to pin that, Mark, about FIU. I think that was one of the coolest things ever, their jersey uniforms. Yeah. Well, they just wanted you to go, Kane's Cat. That's why.
I did love the uniforms. I thought that they were really cool.
I liked the pictures that I saw because no one could see the game, but the pictures look pretty cool.
Okay, I have a few, and they're all pitching. Combined no-hitter for the Vols. Awesome. I love when pitching dominates like that. Blake Gillespie throws a no-hitter for Charlotte. He only had one walk, Jake. He was one walk away from perfecto there. And Ethan Norby, 19 strikeouts there for ECU. Just a terrific day for some of these pitchers to go out and really dominate right before we're getting into some conference play for some of these teams. So great to see pitchers taking on that power right there. Jake, who's your best non-Power 4 team right now and not Oregon State?
That's ACC, SEC, Big 12, and Big 10.
Correct.
I think it's got to be somebody from the Sun Belt. I'm going to go, let me pull up Troy.
I have Troy. I'm highlighted. Their only 2 losses are to Auburn and Alabama. This is a team that continues to impress for me, and their offense wins games. They have pitching this year. I think that this team is really the next team that you look at and say, they're this year's ECU or Southern Miss, whatever direction you want to go with, whatever your favorite non-conference team is, non-Power 4 team. Troy is that for me this year.
And if you're going to go deep mid-major, because I know a lot of people have the Sun Belt kind of in that weird in-between, McNeese has looked really good.
Yeah.
UTRGV is another one. They've impressed early.
UCSB also has been a very good team out west. I mean, there's 3 teams out west between Hawaii, UC Irvine, and UCSB that are right there with Troy in my mind.
I don't feel like UCSB should count since they have a first rounder.
But they're still, it's Big West is not considered a Power 4 conference, Jake.
They're going to get 2 teams in. Who's the worst
3
team in the country right now, Mark?
The worst? I don't do the negatives. I'm not diving into any of the worst teams in the country. I don't live that life.
I did want to give a shout out to the Fairleigh Dickinson Knights. They got their first win last night. They are winless in non-conference play, but undefeated in conference play with their win over the Lemoyne Dolphins.
Let's go.
Shout out to Fairleigh Dickinson.
All right, Jake.
Twitterless team, by the way.
Special segment just for you. This is called Panic Button, and I'm going to give you 6 teams that are in Power 4 conferences, and I want you to say yes or no whether you're going to panic on them right now. The Duke Blue Devils are 8-6. Are we panicking?
Panic.
I think that they have the ability to turn this around, but I'm in the panic mode as well on them. Virginia, 8-4.
No panic.
No panic. The loss to Boston College doesn't have you freaking out yet.
They're too old. They have too good of a lineup. They're going to figure it out.
Coach O'Connor also terrific, so I think that they're going to be fine. Indiana, 7-8.
It's the Big Ten. They'll be fine.
Okay. I mean, this is a team that a lot of people pick to be at that top tier, possibly winning the Big Ten. And they start off with a split with Penn State, who's also played very, very well this season. But 7-8, Indiana, not panicking. How about Maryland, 7-6, a team that also was up there at the top of the Big Ten thoughts with their bullpen issues?
I'm going to hit panic for them just because I felt like this was one that they should have won against the UCLA team. I felt like whoever lost that game was kind of going to be in panic mode. I think Swope will get them right. It'll just be the bullpen. you can't fix a bad bullpen.
The offense has been zero issue for Maryland, honestly. It's just been the bullpen arms that have really scared them. They got to figure that out. But I am hovering over the panic button. I haven't pressed it yet, but I'm hovering over it for Maryland. Oklahoma State, 7-6.
I want to hit the panic button for them, but they do this every single year, I feel like, where they start really, really slow. They did play a tough schedule, I should say
They
that.
did.
But they lost last night against a crappy team.
They lost last night against Illinois State. I'm worried about this Oklahoma State team, Jake, because I feel like the inconsistencies are starting to pile up. I'm with you. I think that they played a tough schedule. I'm not panicking yet, but I'm very close to panicking on this Oklahoma State team.
They legitimately might be the best team in the country with the worst record. I think that they could beat anybody in the country. Like
If
even
they
went
toe to
toe with
team at
Tennessee.
500. Yeah,
They're the best. They've given Tennessee the best game. Tennessee used all their bullpen arms. They ran it up with Liam Doyle, and they were in the game. So they're a good enough team to beat anybody in the country, but they're also bad enough. Like they lost to a bad DBU team.
Yeah. One more for you. Another Big 12 team. Texas Tech Red Raiders, 3-9. Are we panicking?
Oh, panic,
on this?
panic.
That feels
big,
like
fat panic.
Yeah, we're panicking. We're hitting the alarms. I am terrified as to what is happening out there in Lubbock. This is a team that we always pencil in to be competing, and this has just been a non-competitive Texas Tech team right now.
If you remove the Big Ten, because some of the Big Ten teams are at the bottom are really bad, I think they're the worst Southern power school.
If TJ Pompey's not there, they might not have a win, Jake.
He got 7th for him. He's not even doing that good
but he's
for
been
him.
all their off. He's been their production.
Damian Bravo hasn't looked good for him.
No.
This is a master class in NIL funding gone wrong. Yeah, I mean, Kane's Cat hinted at it in the comments. There are numerous players on that. Again, I don't really like to talk NIL stuff. Their NIL for their entire team is less than some of the players that left at some of these power schools.
All right, Jake, one more set for you here. Some conferences open play this weekend. Which conference series for the next 2 days is the most important for you to watch? This could be like you just want to see it because it's a good matchup, or this could be where like somebody's got to win on this one.
I'll go good and bad. Good as in I want to see it. Stanford, North Carolina. It'll be a good litmus test.
It's been terrific, right? That was a great Friday night game.
Bad, it's got to be Virginia. I would say Duke, but I feel like Duke's just struggled too much for us to kind of put them in that tier. Virginia's got to come out. They got to win the next two. Find a way. It doesn't have to be blowouts. We can sit here and talk Monday morning about how Virginia was terrible, but they won 2 of 3. Find a way to get it done in the next 2 days if you're the Virginia Cavaliers.
I was the Stanford, North Carolina one's great. I'm going to lean Oregon and USC. I think that that's a great Big Ten matchup to start there. And on the other side of that, Maryland's got to figure out a way. I mean, if they get swept by UCLA at home here to open up Big Ten play, there's going to be some big question marks there surrounding the Maryland program. So those are my thoughts.
Did it hurt you to say those 3 games were Big Ten matchups, Mark?
It hurts. It hurts tremendously to say that those teams are all Big Ten match. I know when I was like, oh, they get their first Big Ten win against USC, I'm like, man, that felt weird typing out yesterday. That was a rough one. All right, buddy. Final thoughts here as we head into the rest of this weekend here in week 4. We're cruising right along in college baseball.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited. I'll be sitting at home today watching all these games. The past 3 weeks I've been out on the road. Yeah, I'll get a good test. I'll have my little notepad out taking some notes. I won't be box score watching. I won't be wheels watching. I'll be watching it live.
That's exciting. I'm going to be down at Goss Stadium with all the faithful down there. I'm going to be giving away a few more seeds. I think I got 1 box left that I'm going to give away today as I go out there into the stands, and can't wait to see all you down there. Thanks again for joining us on the Weekend Rotation. Jake McKeever, Mark Garland. We'll see you guys next weekend. We might have some new hosts coming on too. We might have some new people. It might be a new, fun, exciting time, Jake.